I'm Sam Lingle with the Daily Dot, and I'm here with Noah Whinston, the CEO of Immortals. So you're here at BlizzCon, but I think that probably most of your off-season recently has been spent worrying about your League of Legends team. So how's the off-season preparation going?
Off-season's going great. With every team, there's going to be a long period of kind of kicking the tires on a lot of players from across a lot of different regions. Our roster is approaching its final stages of completion, and we're pretty confident and happy with how it ended up.
Okay, so you guys have also gotten a new team house?
Yes, so we moved the team house from the old teammate house, which was out in Woodland Hills, to something a lot closer to Riot in the Sawtell area. So walking distance to Riot just helps out players on game day a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it sounds like your preparation is going well. You're also here at BlizzCon in Lincoln Park, which is one of the investors in your team, Immortals, is here playing. So are you excited to see them play tomorrow?
Definitely. We got to chill a little bit with them at their recording studio a few days back, and they're super excited about working in this space and working with us, and we couldn't be happier to have them.
So how did you manage to, convince all of these big-name investors to give you all this money?
Like when I know, I'll let you know, but I haven't quite figured it out yet.
Well, you ran a business somewhat before, right?
That's true. I ran a Magic the Gathering website for about 2 years, opened a physical store in Chicago, went to a bunch of trade shows all around the world. So I definitely have some previous business experience too.
You guys had like a Magic team as well?
Yeah, so as part of running that website and store, we put together a team of sponsored players, which is pretty common in the Magic the Gathering industry. And not quite the same as League of Legends. These guys don't necessarily train together. They live in different places, but at the same time, the kind of sponsorship level is very similar to the esports
So the mechanics
model.
in terms of like running it is similar to esports.
I'd
in
say
some ways.
Magic players need a little less life management than esports players. I think there's a little more hands-on element. Well, of course, this isn't news to anybody, right? In esports, it's important to make sure your players are only having to focus on the game. You want to make sure everything else in their life is handled for them so they don't need to worry about it. And whether that's making sure that they have healthy food nearby, whether that's making sure that they don't need a car in order to get somewhere to do something fun during their break, whether that's making sure they know how to do their taxes and those taxes are getting paid, which is unfortunately not always the case in esports.
We've seen that recently.
Yes. It's important to make sure that the players are, I guess the best way to put it is these are really young guys who don't get the traditional maturing experience of college, right? They're doing this really most of the time instead of being in college, which is where a lot of people learn the skills that you need in order to become a functioning adult in society.
I don't know what you learned in college. They didn't teach us how to do taxes there either.
Well, you don't necessarily learn how to do taxes, but hopefully you do learn how to do your own laundry and feed yourself. And there's an element of that learning curve in esports too. We have to be there to make sure the players are able to give it their all in practice and in the games without getting too distracted by the concerns of daily life, but also so that when they're done being a competitive gamer, they know how to go about daily life.
So is that something you feel like your organization is kind of focused on? Is that your identity maybe?
Yeah, I think that's something that only a few organizations are really doing right now. There aren't a lot of esports organizations that go the extra mile to help their players in the same way that people like we do, in the same way that Team Liquid does, in the same way that TSM does. We make all of our players and coaches full W-2 employees. They get access to healthcare through our company. That's not something that every company does do, it's something that every company should do. But that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about bringing esports into the mainstream, right? You pay your players as employees not because you have to, but because that's the way the world works. And you do it, and you give them healthcare, and you give them workman's comp, and you allow them to collect unemployment insurance if they aren't working with you anymore. And when you have all of those things, esports becomes more of a real industry instead of being the kind of in the shadows, dark corner of the basement industry it's been for a long time.
So, do you feel like there's ever conflicts because you're kind of a team? You're helping the players, but also you're at odds with the players in terms of keeping their salary low. Maybe it's better for your organization. There's a lot of conflict in that realm in esports.
That's true. I think that conflict happens though because people don't think about the business of esports in the right time span, right? Of course, it's better for an organization to pay a player $1,000 a month versus $5,000 a month. But what most people, I won't even say most, but what a lot of people don't realize is that the long-term benefits of paying higher salaries are way better. If you are known as an org that pays higher salaries, pays those salaries on time, treats their players well, all the best players want to play for you. That's how you create longevity in your esports organization. Because there are plenty of esports organizations that, sure, they got one over on the players because they didn't have to pay them that much, but guess what? Those players weren't there the next year. And those orgs aren't performing well because they have a bad reputation. So for us, the view we take is we'd much rather set ourselves up for long-term success. We don't want to make money in the first 6 months. We don't want to make money in the first 12 months. We want to do well over the first 4 or 5 years, or even longer, depending on how the trajectory of esports continues.
I mean, it's kind of like sports franchises don't necessarily make money off the revenue. They make money by building the value of the franchise.
Exactly.
Do you feel like that's something that's I mean, I guess that is happening in esports now because we're seeing $1 million deals to buy some of these franchises. Like I think the Follow Esports acquisition was quoted around there. So,
right, and I think as esports is a little weird because it's kind of the hybrid of traditional sports and tech startup culture. So we're still kind of at this decision phase of are we more of a tech industry or are we more of a sports industry? And if we're more of a sports industry, then there's a lot of enterprise value, right? Like there's an underlying asset there, which is the thrill of owning a team. People that invest in teams or own teams don't always do it because they want to make money, although they do want to make money. It's also because they want to own something that they think is cool and their kids think are cool. On the other hand, if we're more like tech, we really need to kind of reorient the way we think about esports from a business perspective, like dive into the analytics and data that aren't being tapped enough right now, and be able to deliver something of, more quantifiable value.
So you managed to sell this to a bunch of those investors. Was it as tech or as sports?
Well, that approach varied by investor to investor, but I think that the reason these investors are involved is because it straddles that line. So a lot of these guys are involved in both tech and sports, or in entertainment and sports, or in entertainment and tech. And those kind of three sides of the triangle all interact in a way in esports that you don't really find anywhere else. Right, there are plenty of media and tech interactions, there are plenty of media and sports interactions, but you don't really bring all three of those corners together in the same way as you do with esports.